Okay, so once they're here, I can open in Unity. I can bring this up, sign in to access my assets. Oi, 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 oi. And there we have it. It's downloaded. I can import to my current project. This little import down here. Keep everything checked. We want all of the prefabs, the scripts, and the sample scene. Obstacle course pack ready to use. And we can take a look at the sample scene and see the thing that they had defaulted, as I say. Mouse control, strafing, jumping, and that's it. A ball we can push, a series of blocks, a seesaw, hinge joint, some pendulums, and a pink surface that is very, very slippery. Now, we have to make that ourselves. And we use the principle that we're going to use here. One thing that doesn't come out of the box ready is the kill zone and checkpoint stuff where you set up the kill zone and checkpoint. So this is a good scene just to see what everything does, and you can select them and check for any public properties they may have in their scripts, such as a rotator script with a speed variable we can change, a bounce script with a force. We can just sample our way through all of these and see what the modules do, what they look like. Okay, so setting up our scene with the obstacle pack. First, I'm going to get rid of this player. Goodbye, old player. And then in assets, prefabs of the obstacle course pack. This is where we're going to find our controllers and everything else. Oh wait, that's my prefabs. There we go. So here are all of our obstacles, all laid out, ready to be dropped into the world. Controller is this first one. And I'm going to need to bring in these two objects separately. A couple of things we need to set up on the player before it will work properly. First off, it needs a higher mass for the seesaw thing to work. So the mass on the rigid body I'm changing to 60. 60. The other thing the player needs is a tag of player for certain objects to obstacles to detect and deal damage. So give the player a tag of player. And then lastly, on the script, you see our controls, our speed, our air velocity, our gravity. So it has its own gravity level. Nice. And down here we have an empty slot for a camera. We need to put the camera holder in this slot here. Here's my little selector dot. There's the camera holder. Very nice. And then for the camera itself, it also needs to know what the player is. So on the camera, you'll see a target. That's what the camera is going to look at. We're going to change that to the player on camera holder. So now if I press play, I'm able to move around. The camera is going to follow. And it doesn't matter where you set the camera in the scene before we press play. I can grab my camera holder and move it far, far, far away. So it's all the way out there, and it won't matter because once we just press play, the distance and range are set by this script. So a little bit more freedom. If we do want to change the angle that we're following at, or the minimum max angle, we can change them all here. We can change the distance from the player as well. Much further back. Make that angle more, and we can look over and above. And other things like the speed it follows at. If I lower that down, it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to lock this so I can keep it in view. Even if I select something else, it'll keep this inspector open so I can play with this. So very low follow speed means you have more room to move around in the camera space. Oh. That's something we did last week. That's updating every frame to instantiate in place. It looks like electricity. Interesting. Okay. And then other things on the player can be modified. We can change how fast he's going to fall. And change things like jump height, making a much higher jump. And then air velocity is how fast we can run in the air. So tailor your character controller for the level you're designing. Decide pretty early on how fast you can move, what his top speed is, top jump is, and design the level around that. Next thing we absolutely need to set up is a kill zone, so when we fall off, we will be respawned back in our initial position. So this isn't something that's set up automatically in the prefabs, we'll need to do it ourselves. First, we just need to find the script I'm talking about. It is kill zone, so in scripts, we have kill zone. Why can't I see it in the inspector? Oh yes, I've locked the player on here. I will unlock that so I can see the script. There we go. And this is why we tagged the player as player, because in this script, nothing is here. Wow, there's a delay. Didn't realize. So in this script, we have a void function, doesn't return a value. This is one that's specific to Unity on trigger enter. We haven't looked at triggers yet, but we probably should next week. But this script is going to check if we're entering a trigger collider. And if the collider that enters the trigger collider has the tag of player, then run this script. And what it's doing is accessing another script called character controls and running a function called load checkpoint. We'll look at that in a minute. Word we should focus on here is trigger. So I'm just going to create a 3D object here. Actually, do 3D objects. Okay, so what I need to create the kill zone is an object with a trigger collider on it. So I've got 2 cubes here. Right now their box collider is here. It is not set to trigger. I will turn that on to trigger. This is now a trigger collider, whereas the other box, which I've named checkpoint, is not. No trigger collider for the other one. The lag is painful. If I press play right now, I can walk forward and I can walk through the trigger collider, and I'm colliding with the normal standard collider. So the trigger collider is literally there to detect collision. You could think of it as a tripwire, a trap mechanism that's going to set something off. So, and you were saying something about can we instantiate, can we spawn? We could set up this whole level as a series of tripwires and then instantiate new traps, new obstacles as we come close to it. And we do that by using an onTriggerEnter function and then calling a script that's going to spawn a new thing. So this one has the trigger collider. It just needs the kill zone script. I can say add component. And go down to scripts. And I can find all of the scripts that already exist in my game. I'll look for kill zone. Kill zone. There we go. Perfect. As we saw before, this script is referring the character control script and looking for a function called load checkpoint. Let's look at it and see what it's doing. Character controls. I'll open it up. Sure, why not? There we go. There's our script. It's saying the transform position will equal to the checkpoint, wherever that is. And since we didn't see an empty slot for checkpoint in the public, I can guess that the script is assigning it somewhere here. I would guess at the start. Yeah. So we set an initial checkpoint right at the start on awake. Checkpoint equals transform.position. That means when we press play, the current transform position of the player is our first checkpoint, our start point. So there's an automatic checkpoint being created for us. So if I press play right now, this red box should kill me and send me back to my initial transform position, which is right here. Bam! I'm back to the start. I've been killed. Horribly killed. And that's all set dependent on where my player starts the game. So I bring him further forward here. Then this is going to be my start point, my first checkpoint. Kill zone. Checkpoints are much easier to set up. Oh, wrong prefabs. So we have a prefab for checkpoint. And it has its own little script called save position. We don't need to look at it. Basically, it means if we pass through a certain trigger, oh my god, catch up. Pass through a trigger with the checkpoint tag, and it's going to assign the new transform position as the new checkpoint. It's going to save this position as we go. So all I need to do to save this as a checkpoint is drag this into my world. And you'll see it's this massive, massive collider. So making sure I don't miss it at all. Oh, it's not set to a tag. Okay. And what it is a box collider with a trigger. And inside of that is an object called CP, and that's the actual point that you will be spawned at. So already set up, anytime we pass through this collider, it will create a new checkpoint. So again, I'll put one right at the end here, and I'll duplicate and put another one right over here. And I should probably put an indicator object to see where they are, but right now, if I die, I fall to the center, my start point. Over here, I am passing through. Pass through the checkpoint right now, so I've gone through. That's my new checkpoint. And when I hit that red box, I should go back. Hey, I'm back at the start. And I'm falling forever. So another good use of this kill zone would be to have a catchment area to catch me if I fall. Some people build it just as a big floor. Maybe you want to prepare for the possibility your character will fly off into space and make walls of kill zone around your level as well. I'm just going to duplicate this. Control D. Bring it down a little bit. And then just scale it to be a good cover. a sea of red, and even that might not be big enough as the level gets bigger and bigger. So if you want to be extra double dog sure, you can make a literal cube. A cube of death containing the entire universe. And then obviously that looks a bit ugly. You wouldn't want to see those big red walls all the time. Just turn off the mesh renderer component. They're still there. They're still going to detect it. And in fact, that's the same as the checkpoint as well. No, it isn't. But now I've got a wall. I could do the front ones as well. Anytime I fall off, I will be respawned where there is a checkpoint. Back to life. The rest of the obstacle pack assets are essentially toys. They're little constructions that you can place into your level and don't require much setup. You don't need to do much more with tags or anything like that. So we're essentially set up for use. All that's left is to start bringing them into your scene, piece by piece. Start making your level a little bit more interesting. You can add pendulums along a walkway. Just drop them into your scene. And it's worth pointing out that the pendulum construction, it does have a script for swinging left and right. It also has a script called bounce. So it isn't just going to collide with the player and nudge him around. It's going to send him with force around the place. So pendulum swinging, pendulum hits me. It can actually knock me pretty far. I can go ahead and play with those forces and make it much more powerful. And this is selecting the ball of the pendulum to get the force and stun time. So you get stunned, you can't use your controls. I can increase that force, let's say 150.